And it's showtime. You're watching the Alien Scientist channel. I'm your host, Jeremy Rice. Today we're going to talk about this footage, which was donated to the archives. Where is it? Sandia. It was donated to the San Diego Air and Space Museum in 1999 by the Teledyne Ryan Corporation. Of course, Teledyne Ryan started out as Ryan Aeronautical Company, or Ryan Aerospace. No, Ryan Airline Company, founded in 1925. And Ryan Aeronautical, eventually turned into Teledyne, became part of Teledyne in 1969. And then Northrop Grumman purchased Teledyne Ryan in 1999. And that's when they gave up all their old archival historical footage to the San Diego National Air and Space Museum, which apparently had this video posted since 2011. Some of these were 2016, some of them are 2011, which was when I was still talking to Ed Fouché, and Ed Fouché was still alive. And this is around the time I was doing a ton of research into the TR-3A Black Manta, which this was a predecessor or experimental craft that led up to that, to the TR-3A Black Manta. And of course, the TR-3A Black Manta, developed by Teledyne Ryan, was what Ed Fouché said was a cover for the more top secret TR-3B project, which involved a little bit different propulsion system and a little bit different goals and guidance. But again, there's no evidence still. Here we are 20 years later talking about that. There's still no evidence for that a TR-3B was developed, but we have tons and tons of evidence for this TR-3A. And this is the actually what you're seeing here is footage of the F-1894 Ryan Aeronautical Model 262. It's a mini RPV flight test in El Centro, 1976. So those who don't know, San Diego, California is where Teledyne Ryan was started. And apparently they did some research out here in nearby El Centro. El Centro is California is it's a border town right above Mexicali, right above the Mexican border. And apparently there's an airport out here where they did some very interesting research back in the mid 70s and 80s. So there's a ton of hangars here. I think these are probably drone hangars. Naval Air Facility in El Centro. This is, I'm guessing, where this archival footage was filmed. So let's get back to it and just keep watching some of this. So they got this huge slingshot rocket launcher that launches this craft. And the thing was propelled by this single engine on the top of the craft, and it was meant to have a low signature and low noise, so that it'd be really quiet and low signature. This is this, I guess it was plexiglass or plastic bubble on the bottom where they had a camera mounted inside the thing. Super interesting. I guess they had a vacuum hooked up to just to keep the dust out of the insides and components. It looks like this is great stuff. Yeah, me too, dude. This is like as good as it gets, man. I can't believe this came out, man. We're gonna go over a whole bunch of these early prototype Teledyne Ryan craft. We're starting here in 1976, and we're gonna move through the years and look at the development of this TR-3A Black Manta craft, which was the predecessor for the B-2 bomber. And Teledyne Ryan, yeah, it was good finding this on film, man. This is, what's amazing is this video has been up since 2016, and look, it's got 65 views, bro. Nobody's seen this. This is how declassify this is how classified material works, man. They'll declassify something and it will just sit there and nobody will know it's there for a decade, and then all of a sudden someone like me finds it and it's just like boom. So I was laughing at some of the people on Twitter saying that footage was fake, or that it was CGI and it was a bad render with the fake artifacts. See the dust and the screen artifacts. This is legit, film from a 1970s camera. These aren't generated artifacts, bro. These are all legit. You would be able to tell. They would repeat. None of these artifacts are repeating. This is legit footage. Yeah, we're gonna watch some of this stuff. So they got this. What is this? A vacuum hooked up to it? I'm trying to figure out all the components and everything that's going on here. So they got it looks like a HEPA filter with a dust collector on the nose cone, and let's watch this thing get launched. Come on, ready? El Centro, California. They got the cigarette smoking man. He's got ear protection on, so this thing might have been somewhat loud. They got a compressor over here. Looks like an air compressor. It is, dude. This is prelude to the TR-3A, man. Look up the history of this. It went from a series of these craft. So it started with the Teledyne Ryan 410, this reconnaissance drone. No, wait, this isn't the one. Not the 410. 410 looks more like the newer one. So this was the... it's not even on this page. I have some more pages I'll show you in a minute with some pictures of these things, some better photographs. These films are good, but the quality's not the best. Look at the instruments that they had to take data and watch this stuff. And oh, this is so cool seeing what they were doing back in 1976 with our classified research money. What is this thing? A spectrograph? No, what the heck is this? Is this oh, they have this thing broadcasting video, and he's watching. They can watch the video live on this drone, and he can control it from this board. Yeah, it's all analog computing. Yeah. Yes, bro. This is so cool. Yeah, all that crap attached to it, why they need this assisted launch. Look at the motor, single engine motor on the top for propulsion. Low noise profile. It looked like a jet fuel kerosene exhaust. I saw them fueling it with kerosene. Come on, they got to show this thing fly already. Do they even show it in this one? I don't know if they do. So that's not the cool one. This is the cool one. Look at it. They set up this, looks like a 30, 40 foot net. 2-level staging. So that's about 8 feet, maybe. 8. It's about 16, 32 feet, about 32 feet high. So this was filmed out at El Centro, California, so this film's a different film. It might not be 76. So this is the F0908 Ryan Star. It's called the Star. It's the Star UAV. This was posted in 2011. It's only got 195 views. Links are in the description for all these videos, by the way, if you guys want. Please don't post these as UFO videos and hoax stuff with them, because that was like my first thought. Is like, man, if people posted some of this footage without context, someone would think this was like some serious UFOs. This is slow motion, so I'm gonna speed it up for you guys a little bit. That just flies into the net and they catch it. I had this camera running in high speed. Whoa. Not this one. Where is the other one? Come on, dude. Where is it? It's got to be right. Nope. 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 Come on. I know it's here somewhere. All right. It's in the description of this video. I know it. And it is this one. This is the best one yet. Saving the best for last, guys. There's the launch pad again with an updated version of this. Now we get to see it launch. That guy's probably flying it from the, he's got the blacked out TV screen so that he can see the TV screen, the CRT monitor, and he's watching everything on a camera and flying it by analog remote control. Man, I can't believe this stuff has been up for almost 10 years and we're just finding it. This is amazing. If I had found this 10 years ago and showed this to Ed Fouché, we might have gotten somewhere, because I was looking for all this Teledyne Ryan stuff when I was doing research years ago into the TR-3B, because Ed had always said that the nomenclature for TR and TR-3B, because someone said, well, TR is in normal aircraft nomenclature is tactical reconnaissance, and he said, no, TR, in this case, it did not stand for that. because again, the TR-3A Black Manta was not a tactical reconnaissance craft. It was a surveillance UAV. And here's the footage I posted earlier. So some of that with this thing flying next to a Cessna. But I'm getting attacked by a mosquito and I can't see him anymore, in case you're wondering why I'm fidgeting. But anyways, yeah, this TR-3A Black Manta was, I don't know if they might have been towing this up to altitude on that. That might have been a tow plane, because it looks almost like there was a tether and they were towing it up to altitude or something. But this is just a really interesting craft. I'm gonna full screen this. This is too cool. Yeah, I think that other plane looks like a tow plane for sure. I appreciate that. It helps with the algorithm. This begs the question now, was there anything to this TR-3B Astra program? We've got the evidence for this program and even videos with some of the guys who were on this. Man, we got to some of that footage. We really have to go through this footage and try to because none of this stuff's on the internet. You can't search for it, Google this stuff, and can't find it. And these videos have actually been up for a while. They were just hidden. Yeah, these the TR-3A. They're also this one in particular is the F-1630 Ryan Aeronautical Mini RPV. It's called the Stars Flight Wall Model 262 Manta Ray. So if you search for that, Model 262 Manta Ray. Again, some of these key things we didn't have, like the model numbers of all of these aircraft and all these prototypes and stuff. And this would have helped fill in some holes in the timeline of when all this stuff was being developed, where and who was working on it. That part is super interesting, man. I love that. I'm gonna play that at normal, a little bit slowed down so people can see that. This is the craft with all the black paint on it now, and it's got this bubble with the camera where it's actually broadcasting that live camera footage back to a server where they can control this thing from an analog TV and controller system. So this is before the age of digital. Super cool. You can see the red vertical stabilizers on the back. But man, this video of this triangle craft flying across the desert is it's surreal. This is great. Yeah, 100 feet across. So these were all super small. These drone prototypes that they were building on this Black Manta program with the Manta Ray. Sorry, not the Black Manta, the Manta Ray. Why do I call it the Black Manta? The Manta Ray, because it was shaped like a manta ray. Gotta find these. This is the whole history of unmanned aircraft. There's some good sources here for stuff we can look up. Gotta find if these guys have got to be. This is like 50 years ago now that this was done. This is 50-year-old technology. They were building and flying these unmanned aerial drones that they could command and view the video and surveil, sites. Great. This is great. San Diego Air and Space Museum. Man, this is huge. I saw this posted by Steven. Actually, the person who posted this I saw first was Stephen Greenstreet on UFO Twitter. So I gotta show some people, Drew. I'm live now showing new footage of the TR-3A program. Yeah, look at that. Look at that umbrella, man. That is not from the 80s. It's not from the 90s. That is the 1970s all day. 76, year of the dragon. Wow, YouTube keeps unsubbing people from my channel. It's pretty crazy. Make sure you guys go to this channel too. By the way, I'm using this footage, and hopefully they don't hurt me for it. This video has almost got 2,000 views, but it didn't have that before, and it's getting a ton now. Make sure you go to San Diego Air and Space Museum Archives and subscribe. I guarantee you there's got to be a whole bunch of good gems in here, man. This is all declassified old stuff. So it would be awesome to get into that and look into this. So that's the argument for why the TR-3B is still classified and this stuff is unclassified, because the TR-3B allegedly used a nuclear power. So they were experimenting with nuclear powered aircraft, and there was of course a treaty which banned the use of nukes in aircraft and in space. I forget exactly when that treaty was signed, but probably around the time of the 70s and 60s, maybe late 60s, early 70s. So yeah, I just it's got to be I don't know whether if we'll ever see footage of something like that. It's just strange. So sorry about that. I had a little phone call. People are seeing this and yeah, so I'm not trying to prove the claim of this. We're just trying to like speculate on it. And again, don't know where we'd look to get that kind of information if it did happen, but there might be somebody. I don't know, it's just kind of weird how we don't have other people talking about this. Yeah, it doesn't not like a typical like nuclear reactor of the time. I'm not sure. I don't know any details about it. I just know like that what Ed Fouché said about the propulsion system back in 1998 at IUFOC. He talked about a lot of stuff that he worked on at Area 51. Some of that stuff, like the foggles, have been confirmed and turned out to be real. Like the foggy goggles that they had to wear that would blur out your vision of what was 30 feet in front of you or in your peripherals. There was a number of other things, like the polychromatic panels. You ever heard of those? The chromatic paneling. So if you guys haven't seen this before, another stealth technology that was developed around maybe the late 90s is when it obviously started, because Ed Fouché talked about this being worked on out at Area 51 back in the late 90s.
Crucial in funding BAE's own adaptive.
This is the adaptive camouflage armor for the new stealth tanks that's being developed by BAE, or British Aerospace Engineering. What does BAE stand for? Anyways, some weird thing. BAE Systems is developing this. This is called adaptive, and these are hexagon panels. They have a system where it changes color actively to match its background, and will change the color for visual displays. And it also will do is change the heat signature, so the thermal image display on the side of the tank. So you'll be able to, if you're looking at the tank, like you see all these videos on the Ukraine. You see all these videos about the Ukraine where they're killing these tanks with drones and wiping them out. And the drones that can see in infrared is how they're spotting the tanks and seeing where they are. So this is a new technology that they can actually change the panels and make it look like a car, make it look like an SUV, or make it look like something else. And they can change the panels on it. So in infrared, it looks like other things. So Ed Fouché talked about that in 1998 or 1999. I'm not sure which of his lectures, but he had two lectures that he did back to back in 1998 and 1999. And a lot of things he talked about were classified technologies that, weren't really known about at the time that later came out. And so I don't know. It's kind of, I'm still definitely undecided and not have no mind made up on the whole TR-3B thing as a whole. It just seems like this is where we'd look if there was information on it. It would definitely be Teledyne Ryan. They developed the TR-3A Manta Ray. So it's got to be, maybe there was another top secret project called the TR-3B that they worked on. But Ed Fouché said these craft were much larger, like 100 feet, 200 feet in diameter. So these little tiny drones that we see in these videos are definitely not the flying triangles that were spotted over Belgium during the Belgian wave of the 1980s. And they definitely weren't some of the flying triangles that were spotted in other UFO sightings, like the ones in Iraq and such forth. So it's tough to say. Were those other UAVs, were they stealth blimps? Was it really a top secret anti-gravity craft that used rotating mercury plasma, rotated at high speed and super cooled to make it superconductive? I don't really know. Nobody's perfect. This is old Teledyne Ryan stuff. Wow. This is great. This is crazy. Anyways, definitely check out the San Diego Air and Space Museum. Their archives here. Got some really cool stuff here. I'm going to look up Manta Ray. See some of this stuff. You see this one 6 years ago. Drop tests. '76 goes back as far as 74 is when they first started some of this stuff. So lots of interesting footage to dive into and history to look up. If people who want to look into this further and do some research, these programs would be the place to look for some of these other craft and technologies if they are real and do exist. Although maybe some of that stuff was just a cover for what was really going on. And, that Teledyne Ryan around that time, Ed Fouché came out in 1998, 1999. Okay. That's the same exact time period, right? That Teledyne Ryan gave all this old archival footage to the San Diego Air and Space Museum archives. All right, let's put some of this together. So Ed Fouché comes out with this magical story about the TR-3B. Got a bunch of real information and some stuff that is out there, and he talks about that, backs him up. But he says that this TR-3B, never did he ever mention anything about this kind of stuff, that there was this whole, we found the TR-3A while we were doing research, but we didn't really put all this stuff together. I'm just looking back at all this. Maybe, so what do people think? Was the TR-3A really a cover for a much more top secret aircraft project called the Astra project, which was the TR-3B, as Ed Fouché claims? Or was Ed Fouché, spreading some misinformation or misdirection or a red herring on behalf of Teledyne Ryan by talking about this other TR-3B craft that got everyone chasing these black triangles, thinking they were anti-gravity craft, when in reality, this was all just part of a UAV drone program, which had just been sold out to Northrop Grumman, and were developing some of the drones, like for example, that the 410, Teledyne Ryan 410. So people want to see this is it the 410? See this one. So these were other drones. Wow, they're dropping these from. There's a lot of history here in the 80s and 70s and 80s and 90s that Teledyne Ryan did on building UAVs and unmanned aerial vehicles, aka drones, for the military. So, Teledyne Ryan. Let me just look this up. And that was the 410. Okay, so it's similar to this. It's like a precursor to this Predator drone, which the Predator drones were sold about the same time. They were selling a lot of these drones. I wonder how much they knew. They knew they were going to Iraq, and all this war in the Middle East was going to start. They must have known as early as 1999. Because in that recent Oak Shannon interview with the director of Los Alamos, was interviewed on Project Unity. So Project Unity did this interview, if people want to go and watch this, with Oak Shannon, and I posted some timestamps at 17 minutes and 49 seconds is where Jay of Project Unity took this one quote from him and used it to say that, in the 70s late 70s is when we determined that all these things were interdimensional. So all these physicists at Los Alamos had determined from looking at the UFO data that these things were not physical. They were, transdimensional or at least not physical objects. So he kind of took that out of context and said that, all these physicists determined that this was so. But even if all the physicists in the world agreed and thought that these were interdimensional back in the 70s, it doesn't mean that it's true until we have evidence or proof that that they tested something or had some kind of experiment. So Shannon doesn't give an experiment or any kind of definite determination. He just says that they were looking at the UFO stuff from that time, and that him and a bunch of his buddies, other new physicists at Los Alamos under the special projects, had determined that these things were, interdimensional. So there's just not enough evidence there to draw this conclusion overall, I don't think. Even if all these scientists thought that was the case, this, just because they looked at stuff and said it was non-physical, it might be interdimensional, doesn't mean that it is, or that it's not proof of that. There's a lot of people that say this whole thing about interdimensionality, and I don't think any of them know what a vector is, never mind a dimension. So yeah, I just it's hard to say. So wow, this is interesting. At 26 minutes and 39 seconds, he talks about in 1999, Shannon said he was writing a book predicting the destruction of the Twin Towers, which I thought was super interesting because 99 is when a lot of the research was being done into a lot of classified research being done into. I thought it was Los Alamos, but now that I've looked it up, it was actually at Lawrence Livermore National Labs, and also Purdue. Purdue did a lot of the research onto exotic explosives and ways to build all kinds of explosive materials and stuff. But anyway, that's a whole nother issue. Let's talk about these projects, and this is the star UAV. I want to show this. Okay, so this is a cool image of this Teledyne Ryan Stealth RPV from the 1970s. Cutaway demonstration of the vehicle, and then there's a whole bunch of other archives that I found. This was posted too, shared by Stephen Greenstreet. A related link of this article through the debrief. I'll post all these links in the description afterwards. No, this isn't the one. Sorry. It was this one that Greenstreet posted. That was a different article. So this is the one that Greenstreet posted. And it's about these Transmedium flying submersibles that were possible over a decade ago. And some of the things that they were building that look a lot like, TR-3Bs or Black Mantas. And these things have been seen coming in and out of the water because they are, of course, designed to be Transmedium craft. The U.S. Navy approved these studies, did testing on these things. They can launch them from underwater. These craft can come up out of the water and take off and fly. A number of experimental Navy ships and stuff. This is the Cormorant. I've shown this a number of times on here. Yeah, but this is super interesting that they're doing all this research into these submersible and Transmedium craft a decade ago. This was super cool, useful. A number of these top secret projects forums have a ton of great pictures and photos. Images of the technicians who actually built and worked on these things, building and working on them in action in the late 70s. So, really interesting stuff. Wonder who this woman is. Probably a wife of one of the scientists or engineers. Maybe she was a scientist herself or an engineer herself working on this stuff. It's curious to try to go back and pick out the people and figure out, someone knows who this guy is. Someone who knows who this guy is. Someone knows whose car that was. Oh, I know who drove the old Buick. Yeah, so these craft from the 60s and 70s. Oh, this is from the late 70s, mid 70s. These are the analog control systems that they use to actually fly these things. Amazing. I wonder who designed and built those, if they're all homemade in the shop there, or if they were, ordered or built by something else. Yeah, I'm gonna look on this forum. There's some good stuff on here. I just want to search keywords Astra. Let's see if we can find anything on the Astra program. No. Let's search for TR-3B. UA-3B. And that's VAQ-33. Let's look this up. Never heard of that before. You can find some good stuff on these forums sometimes. Meh. Interesting. Electronic Warfare Squadron. Tactical Electronic Warfare Squadron. That's interesting. Cool stuff. Let's see. So the Navy concluded that these transmedium craft were possible a decade ago. Of course, what happened to the TR-3B now? We got the TR-3A. We got all these, other prototype craft, the F-1636. Oh, this is some good footage of them actually building and working on the propulsion system. So, so it's just a mock-up and design of the test bed just for the wind turbine. Looks like they got a flywheel here and a little transmission. Cool stuff. What background noise? Yeah, they're not just testing thrust, they're testing silent thrust. So they were developing these craft to be extremely low profile, so low heat, low noise signature. No, I think it's the paint job. That orange on the craft. I think it's actually the paint. The glow? I don't know what you're referring to. They might be charging it with some. Like the early. It's so they can find it. Yeah, I think it's for visibility, so they don't lose this thing. They fly it around. Interesting. Either way, we might be doing some experiments finally next year with rotating Mercury plasma we actually have some theoretical basis now to go upon with the whole idea of this, you know, the David Chester outlined all the different approaches to the stress energy tensor and you know, how you could actually, within the confines of Einstein's relativity, produce anti-gravitational field or a field strong enough to reverse the gravitational field of Earth. One of them was torsion physics, and but we actually have some other ideas about that as well, which is the idea of if you supercool mercury ammonia solutions, you can get high temperature superconductors actually, and this is reported in the literature about mercury ammonia solutions. And these mercury ammonia solutions produce what are called bipolurons, and the bipolarons will actually create a different type of bipolaronic superconductivity, which is different than, you know, the Cooper pairs in BEC theory. Was it Bose-Einstein-Cooper theory? Yeah, so no, they weren't. That was way ahead of this time, man. They weren't building they didn't start building acoustic metamaterials until like 2004, man. At Duke, I think Duke University built some of the first ones. So this was decades before that. So, but yeah, the toxicity of mercury just makes it so dangerous to work with that the safety concerns are you know, these spinning mercury engines. We just have to build a whole facility to do this kind of experiment inside of, so that we wouldn't be putting ourselves at risk, especially, you know, supercharging it and supercooling it and doing all these weird tests that we want to get done with it. So it's definitely not a safe experiment, but definitely one that we could check out. There's some interesting experiments that we've done. Actually, Jeremiah discovered, join the technicians here. Jeremiah discovered that if you take a jar of mercury, and you hold it in your hand in the dark and you start spinning it around in complete darkness, the mercury rotating it with your hand will actually produce a small amount of light. Actually glows a little bit. You can test this and you can see it for yourself. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah, these videos. I went and saved a couple of them, but yeah, I should go back and really just copy and download all of them and save them, because I just feel like this is the kind of crap that, you know, they'd come out with and be like, look, these are the UFO videos. You know, someone could find. I just feel like this. I've opened a can of worms by even showing people this channel. The UFO community should never have known about this channel. I just can't wait for all that. We're just going to have a field day when people post this stuff, so we can just go and debunk it and show people what it really is. But hey, maybe we need that because when people post this and say it's a UFO or something, it's going to get tons more views than when we post it, you know, actually telling the truth about what it is. You know, as they say, a lie spreads around the world 10 times before the truth has the time to put its shoes on. Yeah, so yeah, we talked about this. Yeah, there's a lot of TR designs and experimental aircraft that Teledyne Ryan built and tested over the years. But alas, you go to this TR-3B. Oh boy, don't tell me we found the TR-3B video. Oh, here it is. Oh, this is great. They talk about VTOL aircraft and research in this video. Oh, I wish they had a date.
Instead of the usual way, like this. But this airplane should fly like this.
Hold up. Yo, hold up a second. I gotta share the audio on this with you guys.
But this airplane should fly like this, as fast and as economically as a conventional airplane. Many people have offered many solutions to the problem. The VTOL era of aircraft, with vertical rising, hovering, and high-speed flight capability, moved closer to actuality early in 1964, as the Ryan Aeronautical Company unveiled the world's first lift-fan research aircraft, the XB-5A. This unique aircraft was designed and built by Ryan for the United States Army Transportation Research Command, under contract to General Electric, developers of its lift-fan propulsion system. The XB-5A is supported by many years and several million man-hours of study and actual hardware experience by Ryan in developing revolutionary new vertical and short takeoff and landing aircraft. Among the remarkable predecessors to the XB-5A was the world's first pure jet VTOL aircraft, the Ryan X-13 Vertijet, first flown in 1957. In 1955, Ryan engineers had begun work on a new concept, the fan-in-wing type airplane, Vertifan. And in 1957, Ryan was awarded an Air Force study contract.
Oh, so this is the same similar concept that the Harrier jet uses to do VTOL lift.
Instead of the larger, heavier, more powerful engines normally required for vertical flight, with their attendant weight penalty and higher fuel consumption in horizontal flight, the Ryan Vertifan design calls for power plants sized only for cruise and range requirements. To meet the power requirements of vertical takeoff, hovering, and landing, the basic thrust is
I'm sorry, I can't turn up the volume anymore. I'm not going to show it because it's just really quiet and there's a lot of noise in the background. But it's describing this VTOL air flow system in this. This is the prototype for what would be the Harrier jets, I guess, of the. What was the Harrier? Harrier jump jet. And these are made for short range. They're made to just be able to, take off and land on short range maneuverability and stuff. So this was McDonnell Douglas's research. So it's interesting. They talked about the millions of man hours though that went into this. They had guys working on this stuff for decades and decades. It's pretty amazing. Think about all the people that lived and worked on this stuff and this entire history that they could never talk about because it's classified. You can't really, you know, share what you're working on or what you're doing. So until 50 years later, it takes for some of this stuff to finally come out. That's pretty nuts. But I don't. That's what came up when I searched for TR-3B. Let me see if I can't find Astra. Something tells me we're not gonna find what we're looking for. Nope. Anyways, you want to learn about the TR-3B, you guys can look up Ed Fouché. Oh, what happens when we look up Ed Fouché? Nothing about Ed Fouché comes up. We get George Knapp. This plane doesn't exist. What about TR-3B? You got to be able to find that now, thanks to my friend Darcy Weir, who made the documentary on it. So, yeah, it's only got 194K views. But, damn, dude. Anti-gravity spy plane found and explained. Yeah, so this, yeah, they show the predecessor for the F-117 stealth craft. But yeah, the Aurora. How about Aurora? Let's go back to Aurora again. I'm not finding anything. We have to. I don't know. It's like one of those things. It's like you know, you could just claim it exists, and if you make up enough details about it, it sounds like a real thing. And it's like, until you can find proof of it, that just who knows if it was real or not. These weird things out of the secret space program, man. You get some of these weird stories from time to time. I should have included more about this in my presentation at the Secret Space Program Technologies Applications Conference. But I didn't want to focus. I wanted to focus on only the actionable intelligence that I've come across, and the whole TRB, the TR-3B thing is just. I'm gonna put up a bunch of my. I'm working on getting my website back together. So thank you everyone who is helping me with the website and getting that back online. We're gonna work on getting this information back online for you. The web filter is real, yes, I know, and it's horrible. You can't find anything anymore now, and especially the good material in this field. Like, we had a playlist on Bob Lazar, and Jeremy Corbell literally used it as his guideline for content banning, and like erased all the good history like that exposed that guy. And you know, just he recovered up the history and changed it all, man. It was like, and it just pisses me off that, you know, Joe Rogan has had Jeremy Corbell on like 5 times. He talks to the same UFO people. You know, this is all the same circle of people, dude. Jeremy Corbell's connected to Knapp. Knapp's heavily connected to Bigelow and Reed. They're all like in bed on this UFO business stuff as a business, and they're also in bed with the government because they use UFOs as a business, but they really sell disinformation and misinformation for the government. And it's ridiculous that this clown of a researcher who claimed that the FBI was raided United Nuclear while he was on the phone with Bob in his documentary, that the FBI raided United Nuclear looking for element 115. And, you know, no context or real history on United Nuclear, that it's basically this. It's a great source for scientists who want to find hard to get stuff. You know, I don't even know if the site's there anymore. Oh, well, it is secure, and it is here. So They have a lot of cool stuff that you can get at United Nuclear. Bob is like a pretty good person for acquiring and reselling stuff. That's kind of what he's made his money off of. That's his big business. That's how he makes his money, because the UFO business doesn't, really pay. But I'm sure he made a pretty penny off that film and all these appearances on Joe Rogan and stuff. And kind of ridiculous that, like, I don't know, man, Joe Rogan, I really lost a lot of faith in this guy as I can't even listen to him anymore after I've watched these, painful interviews. I really just, I can't even watch Joe Rogan anymore. I know he's the most watched podcast, and he's super popular and everything, but man, you sold out Spotify, dude, straight up. And I can't wait to next time I'm on Tim Pool and he defends you, I'm going to call you out straight up. No joke. Anyways, the Bob Lazar thing is ridiculous. United Nuclear. Oh, I'm not even showing the United Nuclear page. That's ridiculous. All right, so United Nuclear is Bob's website, and Bob sells all this really cool, hard to get stuff. But you know how this business started? Well, he started back in the day. Bob and Jim Tagliani, who's his buddy that used to work out at the real Site 4 out at Tonopah Test Range, and shared a bunch of classified stuff with him. Bob and his two buddies, Gene Huff and Jim Tagliani, used to run an event called Desert Blast. You guys have ever heard of this before? The Desert Blast event was this, it still is this thing that goes on. These people, go out and light up a whole bunch of crazy big bombs out in the desert, and it's you buy tickets and everyone goes. And back in the day, it was more of an informal thing. It was like, it was less known about, and it was more informal. And you used to be able to buy, people would be buying and selling explosives and stuff there. They, be selling all kinds of stuff. It would be like the ultimate fireworks show. And so they used to go and have this ultimate fireworks show out in the desert and blast all this stuff off. And dude, it's the popular. No bombs at Desert Blast, just fireworks. This is like they're showing missiles in the picture. I searched for Desert Blast, and it's showing these. Oh, this is like this is the big event that that they get out all together out in United Arab Emirates or wherever the heck they meet up and have the arms show off, and they blow up a whole bunch of stuff in front of all the military of the world, and then they sell them all the stuff afterward. Where is that? This big documentary that was done about that place and all the warlords that go there to watch stuff getting blown up. That song "Bring Your Own Bombs" by System of a Down was written about that place. So that's probably where this picture's from. But yeah, I guess they just would blow off explosives and stuff. And apparently, you used to be able to get like the stuff to make. I'm not going to mention the exact chemical names and stuff. People who are smart know this stuff. And you can learn it in any high school, or college chemistry book if you're really interested. But yeah, the stuff that you need to get, they started regulating in the 80s and the late 80s. So you needed a company, an official chemical distribution company, in order for these chemical distributors to mail to you. So that's when Bob created United Nuclear and got the plug. He'd be able to order tons of materials and stuff, and he'd be able to resell it at a good markup, because no one else could get it from this stuff. And that's they were selling tons of this stuff at Desert Blast. United Nuclear has been raided a whole bunch of times. They had to move out of their original 2 locations, and now they're, I think, in Oregon. They moved. They originally, I think, started in Las Vegas or out in the Midwest, but because they're in a one of the top underground, covert suppliers of glassware, it actually turns out that they were raided several times by the DEA, who were looking into where meth labs were getting all their supplies from. So yeah, he after supplying a ton of the Walter Whites of the Midwest with equipment to make illegal illicit substances, they eventually were kicked out of Las Vegas and had to move to Michigan, where the laws were less restrictive. And they operated in Michigan until a couple of years ago when Bob Lazar sold the business and then moved to Oregon. Oh, Bob, yes, I know what I'm talking about. I challenge you to come on the show and have a talk with me about all this stuff. I've done the research on you. I know what you're about. Let's talk about your 1993 pandering conviction. And the Crystal Cove apartment complex that you apparently went to and were working with a madame there to set up a brothel. Oh, no, you didn't set up the brothel. You just installed CCTV cameras in the brothel to monitor Johns who are going to visit prostitutes at that location. Huh. In fact, you pled guilty to that. All right. Oh, pimping. Bob Lazar, you are the pimp of ufology, dude. I must say, I've never heard of anything quite so bizarre as the Bob Lazar is a pimp. Oh, we got to watch this, dude. This was UFO proof. I still watch this every once in a while. I think he took it down, dude. Why did you take it down, Kyle? That was your that was like your best video, dude. Bob Lazar is a pimp. He just went off on Bob Lazar about being the pimp. The other cool one is George Knapp talking about it, and he was like, "Oh my God, you don't like talking about that. You won't find the video. They've censored it. This is all CIA run. I'm telling you, bro. They hide the truth, Bob. I know exactly what I'm talking about." You're giving you too much credit, bro. That absolutely is Bob Lazar. And it's been taken down and censored from the net. I can't find this on this anymore, but I have all the paperwork and I have all the documents to prove this. So if he wants to, sue me for slander or libel, go right ahead. I'm not libeling or slandering. It's all backed up with paperwork and documentation. Nothing I've said is not true. One of the cool things you maybe can look up is the Gabe Zeifman flyover. Yeah, so he flies over Area 51 in this video and flies right over Papoose Lake.
Places. Was it?
I mean, this is the one where I think they took the video out. This is the full video. Yeah, this was posted a year ago, and this is the full video. And he posted some photographs too of the actual lake site. And you can see Papoose Lake, in detail that's never been seen before, because he was allowed, it's Christmas time and it's a lot of the testing and stuff shut down during that time. So he was able to get really, really close in this flyover video and get some really good video and high def 4K video and pictures of Papoose Lake. That guy's Gabriel Zeifman. And George Knapp interviewed him, and then once he found out that his story didn't support there being anything at Papoose Lake, he kind of dropped it and went on. But he said, "Oh, but now he can at least say, yeah, I interviewed that guy and talked to him, and yeah, we covered that." It's like the same thing I said. He said to me when I met him in California and brought up a whole bunch of stuff to him. He's like, "Oh yeah, we've covered all this before." Yeah, but it's not highlighted, and you still promote the story as if it's true, and you've never come out and distance yourself from it, and you're continuing to basically profit and use it as a launching platform for all this other stuff. And now there's people on UFO Twitter talking about it in these congressional hearings and stuff. And the craziest thing about the UAP task force, right? Congressional hearings that took place. I keep bringing this point up because it's counterintelligence at its finest, that these guys don't know anything. and have no idea about any of this stuff. And then the one thing that this guy Gallagher can bring up, Rep Gallagher, and people need to write this to dude and hammer him, because there's a whole bunch of, there's an army of disinfo bots on UFO Twitter trying to say that we need to go after these Wilson docs that were brought up in this congressional hearing, and that they want to call Eric Davis to testify, and Admiral Wilson to testify, and even guys have been taught, people in the UFO community are communicating with all these people. They got the interview with Oak Shannon, who was apparently, involved in this whole mix of the Wilson documents and this whole stuff. But in reality, this was the first UFO hearing to have happened in Congress since the 1960s, with the last U.S. Air Force cover-up known as Project Blue Book. Project Blue Book ran from 1952 to 1969. And when it was closed in 1969, that was the final say on all this stuff. And we haven't talked about it in Congress since then. But it was interesting that researchers revealed, it was in the Phenomenon documentary, Phenomena, by James Fox. And in this movie, it came out in 2020. It was talked about, really publicly for the first time ever. It was mentioned in this and talked about something called the Pinnacle Memorandum. And if you search this, you'll find a bunch of other crap now. It's not the real thing. But this, not this one. Oh, this is the one, yeah. So it's a 1953 secret memo that was actually found in J. Allen Hynek's notes. So J. Allen Hynek was the head scientist and investigator for the U.S. Air Force's Project Blue Book UFO study. And one of the documents he had in his notes that was found by Jack Valet, who went through his files when he passed, was this document on the 1953 memo mentioning that this author, Howard C. Cross, whom Valet had nicknamed Pinnacle, was later identified as having been involved with the Battel Memorial Institute, and that there was basically a secret version of Project Blue Book which had access to the metals, and that the metallurgy and more of the secret stuff was kept from the official Project Blue Book, but was actually studied under these scientists in this more top secret project that was going on under Battel, that's mind-blowing. And that should have been front and center at these congressional hearings, that hey, all right, here we are after it's been 50 years since we've talked about this topic. Well, let's rewind and talk about this 1953 document that says that there was another Project Blue Book. Why don't we go back and revisit that, and revisit this institute, this Battel Memorial Institute, which, when I looked it up, they've existed as a metallurgy contractor since the 1920s, and they currently manage contract management for all of our national laboratories. So they have a stranglehold over all our technology. So you think about free energy and anti-gravity technology, the physics is the easy part. Getting it past these people is the hard part. Because someone in our group or someone out there actually figures anti-gravity out. And I want to let people know that, because we have a lot of people who are really interested in the subject and doing the science research. You don't think other scientists who have had access to just untold, trillions of missing defense budget dollars couldn't have figured this stuff out before?
It's as soon as you put it to the patent office, it gets classified as national defense. And I had to just join in to be like, if you are the real Bob Lazar, either STFU or join in the stream and actually show your supposed element 116, bro. Like, come on. Like, Would the real Bob Lazar please stand up and actually join the show? We will treat you with respect, but come on,
we gotta
show
screen
some
this
evidence.
first, man. It's gonna be the porn bot that came on before. Remember? You're gonna wait. I can see it coming.
Oh, right.
That's what they did last time. That they jumped on the stream, then they showed a porno. The guy that came on and started yelling about classify. He started yelling about super censored stuff. And the video got immediately flagged, and then I got taken down. Then it gets the shadow ban and the filters, and all that stuff goes into effect. And that's what's going on with my channel. This algorithm, this master algorithm that they manipulate, and it's manipulated behind the scenes. And I talk about the science. This is right in your face. This is behind the scenes, but it's right in your face.
Right? How can they have the algorithms that can instantly block your live stream because it can tell that you're playing another video, but they aren't able to block out these porn bot accounts? It boggles my mind.
Yeah, I don't know, man. They do it on purpose. Show your face, Bob, or I'm not.
Please show your face, Bob.
Come on, show your face. We can see he joined the stream, but he's not there. Ready?
Oh.
I got him on real quick. I just wanted to throw him on there real quick to show people. Don't. Yeah. Come on, Bob. That wasn't you. No. It didn't even sound like him. It sounded like some fat dude pretending to be Bob.
Oh Lord.
No, don't let him on. Don't let him on. Come on, Bernie. He's gonna get on. He's gonna rape our channel. Just careful with this one. It's probably Jeremy Corbell.
Right? Like, can
Guys,
we hear him talk in the background, or only when we
showing off the real stuff and talking about Bob?
please show your
Definitely.
face, Bob, and we will happily let you in, but we don't want it to be a porn bot, so we need you to verify it's you.
Yeah, yes, gotta verify.
Yeah, it definitely makes you wonder. That's for sure.
I'm guessing you couldn't just force mute him.
Mm-mm.
That way you'd have to use visual to indicate that it's him, so you can show his face.
Video, and that we've had
I can
trolls
see it.
join in, and as soon as you let them join in, they put up pornography in their video feed. That's
matter,
why
I
we
can
need them
see
to
it.
show the video feed.
Actually,
ahead of time to
make him
prove
show
who he
his
is.
face while he's still backstage.
Yeah, I could see him backstage. If he shows his face and proves he's Bob, I'll bring him on. But
Yeah,
not doing that. It's not him.
I don't think.
I mean,
it's him.
he's obviously some probably 17, 18, 19-year-old kid, who obviously doesn't.
Yeah, just got into UFOs
anyway.
about 2 years ago with the TTSA wave, and it's like
Could be. Yep.
I was gonna say, you have to ask yourself, what benefit does it give him to get
and see if it's
VTOL?
actually him. Oh God, Bob.
I am going to throw something out here real quick. I just want to say, because I've got some family down in Florida right now. How about that freaking hurricane? I don't know if you guys have seen any of the footage, but not to totally jack the topic, but man, that is the wildest stuff I've ever seen. And it leads me to believe that almost the correction of where that hurricane is going, that there might be some weather control there, but I don't know. So, yeah, I'll stop.
I'd only believe there's weather control if you can see it's fighting Coriolis effect. Because all hurricanes, everything that's north of the hemisphere spins one direction, everything south of the hemisphere spins the other direction, because they have to counteract the Coriolis effect on it. So if you see a hurricane on the wrong side of the hemisphere spinning opposite direction, then you got something to talk about. That's proof.
That's a logical point. Yeah, you're right. And thank you. Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm probably totally wrong. So
they also always move from east to west until they exit that wide open plain of the ocean. Then they start moving either north or south to head toward the pole. You sometimes get reversals from those polar winds then pushing on it to make it go back toward the east. But out in the ocean, it's always moving. If you look at them, they're all east to west. They're basically being left behind by the spin of the Earth.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, they're always chasing hot water, I guess. So yeah. Okay.
I looked into all that to figure out the best places to set up shop if you were going to live somewhere where there was ocean area around you, and west coast of anything would be, you know, preferable. Like if you're gonna go out to Hawaii, make sure that you're on the west side of the Big Island to act as a windbreak from hurricanes, stuff like that. Don't
That
pull
Bob
a nonsense thing and get on the east coast like my friend did, and then he got hit by 2 hurricanes after he said, "Oh, it'll never hit. There hasn't been one in like 300 years." 2 of them hit, one right after the other, and they collapsed a bunch of lava tubes. So like about 6-7 months after those hurricanes, maybe it was about a year after those hurricanes hit, his place was devoured by lava in an area where there had not been lava flow in over 500 years.
Wow.
Because those
Wow,
lava
that's
tubes
wild.
being collapsed redirected the lava from the volcano toward his direction.
That's not in
To
Florida, though.
evacuate, but some who
Where was
high
that?
water levels prompting
Tom?
drastic.
That's Naples. So the owner of the dealership who actually owned 4 Acura, Honda, Ford, and Hyundai dealerships, he lives in Naples, and he's beachfront property. He's actually on 3525 Gordon Drive. You can look him up. But really good guy. But he also has a house up here in Dayton, Ohio, where I live, right down the road. Big house. I guess they were under 6 or 7 feet of water, and they weren't expecting it to hit. They thought it was going to hit Tampa, and then I guess it took a corrective course and went right towards Naples. But anyway, yeah. Sorry, this thread is not about a hurricane. It's about obviously something else. So I'm sorry for doing that.
And I will point out too that I was actually quite worried for him in both instances. Can look at it now and laugh and make jokes, but back then, man, that was definitely no joke. So
Trying to find the footage of the manatee that was hopping down the street after that got displaced from the floodwaters.
At first, that sounded funny, and then it broke my heart because manatees are pretty cute.
Yeah, it was just I was like, oh man, poor guy. I hope someone. I don't know what happened with him. You know.
And just to confirm, Bob Lazar that tried joining was a 1000% porn bot that tried to put up porn and got booted.
Yeah.
Can we shed some light on what the heck that is? What do? They just jump on the stream and just post porn links? I mean, why?
To get the channels taken down. It's how I lost my first YouTube channel.
Really?
They literally impersonate another person in the community using their name and everything, come on, refusing to show their face, and then as soon as you let them in, they put up the most disgusting porn possibly. It's ridiculous.
I mean, it's not funny, but it is kind of funny. But I mean, what in the heck? What's wrong with people? Anyway.
DARPA is the highest functioning organization you will ever encounter in your life.
What that means is that DARPA is looking to recruit program managers from all over, not just professors from universities, but also from industry and, in my case, from other government agencies.
This is an opportunity that you can't have in other places. Having access to this wide range of disciplines.
And I think that's every technologist's dream, to have impact, to reach people, to change people's lives.
I work on fundamental research problems that will have broad-lasting impact, hopefully, well beyond the confines of DoD.
I've come to DARPA to support fundamental mathematical research in an innovative and risky fashion.
I came to DARPA because it gave me the opportunity to take advantage of the great resources that are here to do something really transformative in my field. I came to DARPA to develop new types of technologies that would be world-changing.
I came to DARPA because I could not come to DARPA.
Because DARP?
Because derp to derp. Derp to DARPA.
DERPA.
Derp, derp, derp.
Derp to derp, derp, derp.
Anyways, I just felt like we'd show a message from Bob's sponsor. Helps provide effective counterintelligence cover for actual DARPA research. Thank you for that, Bob Lazar. We appreciate your efforts.
I was gonna say, I don't think it was Bob Lazar. I think it was Bob Bazar.
Bob Bazar.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much you keep up with Richard Dolan, Jeremy, but he put an interesting cast out on a Wilson document, which wasn't the Travis Wilson document, and I may be blanking on the name. I think it was David Wilson, and it was actually posted yesterday.
I like Dolan. You know, we don't have to agree on everything. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not everyone has to agree on everything. Sometimes we can disagree, you know, and he has no more excuses. Yeah, let's see what he has.
I think that was the one I saw.
Pages of notes dealing with his interview with retired Admiral Thomas Wilson.
Yeah, that was it.
A lot of talk about.
Yeah, so he's talked a lot about this, man. And
yeah.
I saw.
Well, there was two different Wilson documents. So there was like I want to say there was a David Wilson and a Thomas Wilson, but like I said, I could be wrong.
Super interesting because you know who talks about the Wilsons, right? I wonder if this Admiral Wilson is not related to this other guy, right? So
well, I think I saw a comment in there that it said that might be a descendant or like maybe a son or grandchild. I'm not sure, but it's definitely interesting. It's a definitely interesting stream. So I'll stop rambling.
Okay, this is the guy, Thomas Ray Wilson, right here. All right, and so that's different than David Wilson. The interesting thing about this Wilson name, wonder who his father was. Doesn't say anything about his father, right? In here. It says early life. It doesn't say anything about his father in here. So you got to find out who this guy's father is, because apparently this whole Sonora Aero Club thing, right, is where this whole thing started, right? It started with a bunch of these aero engineer enthusiasts in the Wright brothers days. They were experimenting with Zeppelins and stuff, and there's this whole book written about this on this stuff. Walter Bosley talks about it and stuff. NIMSA and the Sonora Aero Club, and he talks about this breakaway civilization and stuff. And I've had him on a couple times talking about his research. His dad was, of course, U.S. Air Force Aero Med Lab in the 1940s or 1950s, sorry. And he said that he was briefed on his dad told him on his deathbed that he was briefed on the Roswell stuff, so that he was told about and shown the bodies out there at Roswell and stuff. So he, in his books and stuff, and he was an investigator for the Air Force OSI for a number of years, you know, kind of like a Richard Doty type. He was actually in Mirage Men, the whole film about Richard Doty. And
so you don't know whether to trust him or not, but I get it.
Yeah, I've talked to him, you know, and I go on a show and he gives shout outs to me and puts like stuff out there. I know I can trust him because he just says anything. He doesn't care. Like, he's read some of my stuff that I'm like, oh wow, that's like he definitely isn't, you know, working for the other team if he's reading this kind of stuff out loud. So anyways, the Sonora Aero Club thing is super interesting because there was these two guys that were named Wilson who were members of the Sonora Aero Club, and it's written about in the whole literature on the old Sonora Aero Club. And apparently these two guys named Wilson weren't related, but they both had the last name Wilson. And a lot of this stuff has been passed down in their family name. The Wilson families. So this whole idea about this guy Thomas Wilson being this key figure in this, you know, cover up is interesting on that note, I will say. And it's interesting that nothing is in here to talk about his, you know, upbringing in this small community of Groveport, Ohio. So he's born in Columbus, Ohio, which is interesting because that's where Battel is. The year before Roswell, he was, born in Battel, raised out in the outskirts of Columbus. Columbus is this big city, so he's raised.
Oh,
He's raised out in the suburbs of Columbus, which is super interesting. That the proximities of a lot of these things, which I think that the Battel Pinnacle memo and all this Battel connection should have been brought up as well, and hopefully if this ever gets dug into deeper, these connections will be shown and talked about a little more.
Exposed for sure.
Exposed.
If I understand correctly, Battel was basically a donation by I forget his name. Was it Dr. Grant Battel? I forget, but they run all of our national labs. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean,
so all the science,
as far as I know, they still run Area 51.
So they got all the science locked down through the intelligence agencies.
Right.
Apparently, they keep it inside these families. So it's key to find out Thomas Wilson, who raised him. What was his mom and dad's name? Where did they meet? Where were they married? These questions. He's still alive. I'm sure he has his whole family tree and history and photographs of his great aunts and stuff. We all have that stuff.
Sure.
So that is what needs to be looked into with Mr. Wilson, Mr. Wilson, because if he is in fact from the same family line of the Wilsons that were involved in the Sonora Aero Club, well, that would just be the icing on the fucking cake now, wouldn't it?
It would, yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Yeah, so I'm not saying there's nothing to this. It's I've called it a nothing burger before because I just think there's the whole Blue Book thing is more interesting to me and more of an avenue that should have been explored in congressional hearings. The fact that the U.S. Air Force was basically engaged in a cover up, just like Project Grudge and was a cover up. And then when it was exposed, they had to create a real program that was not really a real program, but they let the guy, explore a little bit, in his own limited monkey brain. His Project Sign, and they appointed him head of Project Sign. But yeah, this is interesting how the intelligence has evolved on this. But this is the key thing. Groveport Madison High School. There's a community out here that's working on this stuff, and if it's centered around Ohio, that's interesting. It would make sense. Does he have any connections to Battel? Let's just search this real quick for that. Battle? Nope. But nope. Doesn't come up in here. So maybe it's just a coincidence that he's. There are sometimes
it could very well be. I mean, you think about it, how many people have the last name Wilson? I mean, Dennis the Menace comes to mind. So that could very well be a coincidence. Yeah.
Oh, is that Tom Hanks movie Castaway?
And Dr. Spaulding, the Spaulding.
I was gonna say both of those two Wilsons are what I thought of whenever you said Wilson. I was like, as long as it's not Mr. Wilson, I'm not looking to get yelled at today.
Oh man.
Dennis!
All right, yeah, maybe we need to move on to a new subject. So sorry, I'd like you said, I'm sorry for hijacking the conversation.
Yeah, I covered enough of what I wanted to talk about, I think, and you know what? I think we're gonna move to closed session so that we can.
God, you ought to be sorry. How dare you lighten the mood?
You know what? It's been an hour and a half. No one's gonna watch it if it's 2 hours. So I'm gonna peace out right here, and I'm gonna open it up for the live chat, and we can.
Hey, thanks a lot for just letting me come in here. I appreciate it as always, and love the community and love everybody here. And hopefully we figure it out someday. Thank you.
Stick around. We're gonna we'll hang out for a bit. So
okay.
Right. We'll see you guys later out there on the live stream, and thank you all for watching. And have a good night, and we'll keep the hope up, man. Hopefully we crack this and figure something out here, or the scientists out with it, or if we get free energy, man, they're done. We could crack the code on something like that, they would be done. But unfortunately, when they have the entire community on lockdown, it's like if anyone discovered that or figured that out or had access to that, it would, of course, get censored. And a lot of the stuff is censored. It's was worked on, and there's millions of dollars that were thrown at these programs, but it's all been classified. And you find out, wow, 0 point energy, trying to extract it with quantum mechanics, and then the whole thing of cold fusion, that with the way they did cold fusion back at MIT back in the day, and now you can't get a patent on it because of that study. So.
Yeah, that is a good case study, Jeremy, to illustrate of how science and technology have been suppressed and discredited.
See, no, we just got to change our attitude and just reword everything so it doesn't trigger, all of their keywords. Just, yes, here's a series of made-up words.
Stop trying to use patents and that's akin to asking for permission. Screw that, man.
We need to make up our own emojis.
Guys, don't let gravity bring you down. Peace. Fight the power.